That's right.
I'd like to call the meeting to order of the City Council of the City of Escalon, regular meeting of February 3rd, 2020. And would you please join me in the salute to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Merkin?
Here.
Councilmember Crumick? Councilmember Legero?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Alves?
Here.
Mayor Swift?
Here. And we'll proceed tonight immediately to the consent calendar. These items are considered routine in nature and are acted upon by a single motion unless requested by an individual council member or member of the public for special consideration. For example, regarding item number 2, I'll be abstaining from voting on check numbers 9693 and check number 72414. Is there anything else that we would like to be considering tonight? Okay.
Move to approve 1 through 3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve items number 1 through 3 on the consent calendar. We'll proceed immediately to a vote on this particular item. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Items 1 through 3 pass unanimously, 5-0. And Mayor Pro Tem Alves, you had a question regarding item number 4.
It's about the nonprofit. I didn't see, I thought that was a nonprofit, or is it a nonprofit?
It is a nonprofit.
It is?
Uh-huh.
So they have the nonprofit?
Yeah, and their nonprofit letter is actually attached to their application.
Okay. Now, that's different than a federal EIN.
What's the difference?
We have the federal ID number, EIN number, but I thought there was a difference between the two, no?
I don't know.
Oh, I do know that they are a nonprofit. You are
Good
correct.
enough.
This isn't the correct form.
Okay, okay. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Alves, do you have any other questions regarding item number 4?
Question I have.
Okay.
I'd move on staff's recommendation. Second.
It's been moved on and seconded on staff's recommendation to approve item number 4 of the consent calendar. We'll proceed immediately to a vote on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Item number 4 of the consent calendar passes 5-0. Staff communications.
Just a reminder, the community meeting is set for February 13th, 6:30 at the community center. We'll keep our fingers crossed on a parking lot. And it was misprinted in the Escalon Times for the 16th. But they did indicate they would reprint it again this Wednesday. 6:30.
Do we have a set sort of agenda that we're going to cover, topics,
So that night was.
besides the Measure S?
It was just strictly designated as the Measure S, so I would imagine if the council chose, they could open it up to other items also.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous towards committing to a whole bunch of items.
Correct.
Being that that one might take a little while, it might not, but I prefer to just get every question answered that needs to be answered on that item by anybody who has any questions on it.
And that's all I have. I don't know if anybody else has anything else.
McHenry Lift Station will be getting kicked off tomorrow morning. Everything's been finalized other than some cleanup, so we'll actually turn on the new lift station tomorrow and running for good from then on. So it's been a long time coming. Excited to see it go.
Very good, very good.
Our potential last hire has his physical on February 5th. If he passes that, we'll be doing a swearing in within a couple weeks, and we'll be fully staffed at 12 full-time. Sweet.
We applied for a SB2 planning grant back in December. Those monies we were proposing to the state to pay for a MSR, a municipal services review, and a couple other items. We did receive word from the state today that we've been preliminarily approved. So if that moves forward and everything works out, we should be able to have that process funded when the time comes.
Outstanding.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
so that'll be great. And then staff, we did put out a request for proposals for plan check and building services this last month. The deadline was Friday, and we've received 6 proposals. So we'll be reviewing those in the next few weeks, conducting interviews, and moving forward.
Yeah,
So
very
when we
good.
get towards contract time, that'll come before council for review and approval.
Very good, very good. The company that is currently handling our plan check review, have they bid it as well, or no?
Yes, they have.
Okay, just curious, okay. Anything else under staff communications, no?
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll proceed to matters presented from the audience. And at this time, the public may address the city council on any item not on the agenda that is within the authority of the council. The speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes, and if you could comply with that as best you can. I know we can sometimes fudge a little bit here in the interest of transparency, but it'd be great to try to keep your thoughts as succinct as possible, please. Unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. And is there anybody who'd like to speak their mind tonight?
I might as well. Question, this is the Dave Ballinger, 1420 Winterbrook. Second agenda that I've seen, you guys had closed sessions on price in terms of payment on real estate. Can you speak to what we're looking to do? I know it's closed, so I'm not sure I can ask that question, but I'm going to.
Well, I may have to defer this actually to our legal counsel in terms of the
I'm
concept.
just wondering
about-
what we're doing
Yeah,
with real
no,
estate.
no,
I'm
no.
just curious.
In terms of the concept of talking about these items such like this at this point, because they
Yes.
are still closed session. And typically, how does that work?
Well, the reason they're in closed session is because they're confidential.
Right.
So, yeah, yeah,
I'm not looking for details of the agreement. I'm just wondering what we're doing, looking to either lease, buy, or whatever we're doing with property. I was just curious if that's available for information or not.
answer that question, if, you know, lease or buy or
It is whatever you feel that we can legally talk about. And Dave, I do apologize about
Oh,
the
that's-
limitations.
I wasn't
It's a
sure I
very
could
good
ask the question, but I figured I might as well
Yeah.
ask, and you
Yeah.
can always tell me no.
Okay,
It's an
well,
allowable answer.
well, like I say, I don't know if anybody here feels at liberty to
Curious.
mention anything about these items
So,
at this point, but if
The-
you do, go ahead.
The first one is a potential sale of property. The second one is a little different situation, so,
So we're looking to sell property?
correct.
Okay.
Maybe just a general statement is, I think, whatever we're talking about, and we're gonna talk about it again tonight, the best interest of the town is the underlying discussion that we're having, and whatever we do, we wanna make sure it's best for everybody. I can just tell you that.
And if there's any action, direction, or transaction that's gonna be moving forward, it will eventually be on
Oh, okay.
on the open meeting also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, hey, thanks for asking that question. That's a good question. And actually, I'm a little amazed nobody's ever asked that. At least in the 10 years that I've been on council, it's like, hey, by the way, what is this stuff? Yeah, so that's a good question. Anybody else like to speak their mind tonight? Katie?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. For those who don't know, my name is Katie. I'm with Congressman Harder's office. In the front, I have left the end of the year report from the congressman. Each one of you has one, as well as our trifold that tells you about our services and how to get in contact with us. And then each of you have my card in case you ever want to discuss anything or you have any questions about legislation or you are applying for a grant, please reach out to me. You can even, call us on our work phone, but if you want, I can even give you my cell phone number and you can call me on that. One of the things I wanted to highlight in the end of the year report is that we returned $500,000 back to Central Valley residents. And in this $500,000, that's helping 1,000 people in the Central Valley navigate the red tape of bureaucracy. And actually, last month, we just reached $1 million. And that case was actually due to a Vietnam veteran, who had 2 heart attacks, and the VA was refusing to pay for it because they said it wasn't an emergency. I don't know about you, but I think a heart attack is an emergency. So that is one of the cases that we just worked out on. The other thing is we brought $20 million in federal grants back to the Central Valley, and we're hoping to do more of that. Just like we are hoping to help more people to navigate what we call the strain of government. And then it also talks about his priorities for the next year. One of them mainly being homelessness. As you can tell, it's a big issue in California, but it's actually a big issue nationally too. The other thing is Agent Orange. I don't know if any of you have heard, but the congressman introduced a bill to add 4 conditions to the list of Agent Orange. That is a herbicide that was used in the Vietnam War. And one of them being bladder cancer, which we have a huge population just in this district alone that has bladder cancer. So he added a bill, which is to add these 4 conditions to Agent Orange. And of course, the VA came back to us and said they needed more time to do studies, which they've been doing for years. And then the other thing is water, of course, because water storage is important for here. And water is basically what we need in order to grow food. And then, of course, bringing more grant money back to the district. So if you are ever applying for grants, please reach out to us. We are more than willing to write a letter of support, or also if there's something specific, a specific project that you're interested in, and you are looking for grants to fund that, let us know. We do have a full-time grants person on staff to help out with that. And that is about it for me. If you have any questions, let me know.
Is it possible, so it is possible for us, let's say we're in a situation where there are grants that we're interested in, something specific that you would be under your, the federal purview. We can contact you and they can assist, either assist, or, and they say a full-time grant writer. I bet they're pretty busy already, no?
They're pretty busy, but her entire job is to look for grants to bring money back here to the Central Valley and also write letters of support. And so, that's what we want to do. And we'll even write letters of support for state grants too.
Okay.
And any type of grants, basically. So.
Staff, duly noted, duly noted. So.
Yeah, we've helped Oakdale get a couple. We've helped Turlock get a couple of grants. So we're more than willing to help you guys as well.
Thank you for telling us about that resource.
And then, of course, our casework services, we're always here to help. And that's what the trifold in the back is for, too.
Very good.
Yeah, I had a question. It's nice to hear about grants, helping different communities that Representative Harder represents. My particular view of grants is that it's federal money, so that's tax money that is being redistributed to us. And I think that's good, but I'm curious if you could speak on what was Josh Harder's position in relation to the President Trump impeachment?
So that has actually already happened, and the current, so the current Senate is actually, going to vote on that, but he did vote in support of impeachment into doing, sending it to Senate, so.
Okay, I appreciate you coming up and updating us on what he's doing for us and for this area as representative. Oh, you have a question, Councilman?
I just wanted to say that I'm one of those people that you're helping navigate through the red tape of government, this time with our state government. I want to thank Ishtar for all the work that she's done. She's made more progress in the last month than I made in a year trying to deal with California Department of Justice. I want to thank her very much for her efforts.
I'll let her know.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks again. Thank you very much for your updates. Anyone else like to speak their mind tonight or ask any questions? If not, we'll go right on to administrative matters. Well, let's do it. Administrative matters, item number 5, and I'm not even going to take a guess if this is going to be Tammy or Dominic. 50-50 chance, and I haven't been gambling that hot lately. So,
It's me.
okay, there you go. It's Tammy. Tammy, go for it.
So tonight, staff is asking the council to consider authorizing the construction of an irrigation well by Barton Ranch Incorporated at parcel 225020-20, or there are 2 alternate locations near that parcel, with the condition that should the city water system become accessible to the property, the well be abandoned and connection be made to the city system. So Barton Ranch has developed a 75-acre almond orchard immediately west of the city on the north side of Highway 120. The property owner is the Negley family, and Barton Ranch Incorporated is the tenant with a long-term lease that they executed in 2016. The property does not have immediate access to the city's water system, and the property is currently using SSJID irrigation water. Barton Ranch has submitted a letter requesting permission to construct a well on the property. The letter is attached to the staff report. The letter indicates having well water available during SSJID's off-season, October through March, will be vital importance for nutrient an orchard that can achieve maximum vibrancy and productivity. They highlight post-harvest irrigation and frost control are uniformly recognized as crucial components in meeting an almond orchard's water requirements. The proposed well will provide those off-season requirements. The recent Bay Delta ruling proposes much greater flows out of New Maloney's reservoir, will likely curtail SSJID's water supply in future years. The proposed irrigation well will protect the orchard and supply its water needs during such periods of curtailment. Staff has reached out to our groundwater sustainability agency to inquire if there would be any concerns about allowing the construction of the well, and we were told there were no grave concerns regarding this specific well. SSJID and OID have joined in a lawsuit challenging the state's right to arbitrarily increase flows in the Stanislaus and 2 other rivers. Staff did try to reach out to SSJID to see if there was an update on the lawsuit, but I was not able to get a response. Staff feels that it would be beneficial to condition the construction of the irrigation well, that if city services become available to the property, that it would be required to abandon the well and connect to the city system. And tonight, Mr. Brent Barton is here if you have any questions or would like more information on this.
Okay, council members, let's go ahead and get this started. Are there any additional questions to Tammy or Brent? No?
I just have a question. This well is not on city property, right?
It's not on city property. It's on property that is within city limits. It's not on
Oh, it
a
is,
city.
it is within the city
It
limits?
is within
Okay,
city
okay.
limits,
I was
yes.
wondering why we're involved in something that is
Yes.
occurring
So the
outside of
question
city.
is, if they construct it and then city utilities become available, they have to abandon it.
Correct.
Well, and my question is, how, do you know anything about how the GSA determined that it would not be a matter of grave or concern? Do they have the area mapped out and they know where they would be tapping into
Well,
versus where
I-
we have
yeah,
our wells
I just
at?
think,
Or?
I think that the single well wasn't a grave concern to them.
Mhm.
Do we know what kind of irrigation they're gonna do on? Is it sprinkler, is it flood, is it?
What, they would have to answer those
Okay.
questions,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I think it's already set up
Okay.
as a sprinkler system
Okay, I was gonna say,
with the nutrients.
Brent, do you mind coming up just for a minute, please, sir?
Thank you. Brent Barton, 868 Jordan Olo Drive in Ripon.
Yeah.
The irrigation system that's set up there is double-line drip
Okay.
irrigation.
Okay, all right.
What's prohibiting the connection with the city system if it's in the city limits?
There's not immediate, city services in the area.
Yeah, for going to the railroad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Mhm. So I'm gonna make the assumption that this is gonna be cost-effective to you. It sounds like you're gonna be using the well on occasionally, like tonight, nights like, well, if you had a night like tonight, you're gonna still continue to be principally irrigating via drip? I mean, are you planning on maybe, because this will probably allow you to sprinkler irrigate, or once you have the well, what's your intention of how to put water on the trees from the well?
Through the existing drip
Okay.
irrigation system. Yep.
Oh, okay, all right.
So 90 to 95% of the orchard's water requirement, given any 2 to 3 year period, will continue to be met by SSGID. This, as staff report described, would be for those shoulder parts of the season where SSGID water isn't available.
Like say after harvest or, yeah.
Immediately after harvest, but before the trees go dormant, and then during frost time, which we aren't quite there
Yeah.
yet, but if the
Yeah.
trees were in bloom, we would.
Yeah. Okay. How would you protect the trees during frost time? Or you're talking about just irrigating the orchard with drip during frost time, and that's just gonna retain just enough heat, you think, to keep the trees from, okay. Gotcha,
Exactly
gotcha,
right. It's
gotcha.
not as good as sprinklers, but drip does.
Okay.
It has other advantages, and it's okay at frost
Okay,
protection.
no, that's okay. That was the one part that didn't quite add up to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so it does work.
I do have one question. If we are granted your permission and go forward and establish the well, and then city services become available, I would assume that would happen if and when the property converted from an agricultural use to some other use. Is that right? Or,
Probably be a recommendation by the staff and the council would need to decide that, I would
Very
imagine.
expensive ag water.
Well, yeah, that, also, yeah.
that's sort of the nature of my question, is
Yeah.
as long as the ground is orchard land, I would like to have access to continue to use both SSGID water and the ag well water. So,
So that could be the condition, up to the council. So you could put it as, the well could continue to be in use as an ag well, but once the property's developed into any other kind of use, then they would be required to connect to city services. Or you could say if city services become available, so if there's a property near them that was to develop and the infrastructure gets put in place where it would be more accessible to them, then that could trigger it too. But that would be something that the council could,
Let me understand where this property is. This is right over the tracks on the right-hand side?
yeah, where the big red
Where the
barn
barn
is. Mm-hmm.
So what happens if down the road someone decides to develop and they need water and he's still ag, and then he has to commit to the city? You realize the cost of watering his orchards?
Well, that's what staff is saying, is it's up to the council to make that
I would say this.
determination.
I would say that he should be whoever owns the property should be responsible for the infrastructure as it comes through the property. I agree with that. But I don't think you should make, if as long as it's ag, it should retain its use of the ag well and ag water available. Because it's not reasonable to have him use city water to do his orchard. I mean, it costs a fortune.
Cost prohibitive, yeah,
Even with drip,
be out.
even with drip.
Bankrupt him.
yeah, I agree.
So that would be my thinking would be then, fine, when it goes in there, they should be subject to the infrastructure costs, but not the use of the water, because the use of the water it just wouldn't pencil out.
Okay, so the condition would be that if the property is developed, and is no longer an ag land, an ag use, then it must connect to the city.
Developed one of two things, right? Either residential or commercial.
Yes.
But
Okay.
the other thing is, though, if the property's down past them developed, that infrastructure cost has to be shared with all those property owners.
Okay,
I mean, that's the way this works.
right,
We do all our development the same way. If you're in line and that's part of the development, the cost is shared through all the property owners. The actual infrastructure cost, not the cost of the water. That
Understood.
you don't pay for.
Understood.
I think that would be a reasonable way to deal with it.
Would this well be subject to the groundwater sustainability plan that's being developed?
well, yes, our whole area is, applies to it,
I need to make that clear.
right? But I mean, I don't think that's any different than,
Well, who issues the well permit? Is it the county or is it the city?
well, the county will technically be the ones that would handle the well,
They're
but
the
they
ones that-
will not allow them to do that without the city's approval.
But they're also the ones who probably make them subject to all the rules and regulations based on that well. We wouldn't have to do that. That's something the county would do, correct?
As far as the standards of the well, yeah, the county,
The standards and also the rule, the water district?
well, the groundwater is still gonna be under our,
It would be under
our
ours.
groundwater sustainability agency.
Because of
so-
proximity to the city, or why?
Right, because it's in our boundaries.
Our sphere
Our
of
ground,
influence,
our groundwater sustainability agency covers,
that area.
yes.
Oh, okay.
It's all the, basically SSJID district, Ripon and
So
Escalon.
do you need a motion from us?
Yeah, this will be an actionable item, and I might suggest in this case, Mayor Pro Tem Alves, that what you had mentioned regarding a caveat, may want to be part of that motion. I think that caveat, right, you mentioned something about,
That the infrastructure must be paid for.
if the infrastructure, yeah,
That we wouldn't recommend that we force anyone in an ag environment or zoning to connect to the city water, but we would ask that they pay their fair share of the infrastructure. That's all.
Brent, is that, you understand that? Okay, yeah. The reason I'm saying, I think that's important to get that in any motion that's gonna be constructed. And again, don't forget, we do need, this is an actual item. You can either make a motion now or afterwards, doesn't matter either way, because we'll have discussion on a motion if you make a motion. There are a couple questions, Kirk?
Yeah, hi, Kurt Danziger, 389 Noni. Good evening, everyone. Is this Gold River Farms, Barton Ranch? Well, I just want to make sure and say hello to Don for me. This is for discussion for you only. It's not any kind of comments that have to be put in there, but there's no discussion how deep this well is. Is it into the drinking water, or is it into just a lower aquifer that's not affecting the drinking water?
That's a good question. That was the one I was gonna actually ask Brent, I forgot. How deep are you looking at for this well? Just curious.
So it would be the typical well construction depth would be anywhere from, say, not shallower than 250 feet.
Right.
To more likely 300 or
Oh, okay, okay.
I didn't hear how deep.
And with
Two-
the
250 to 3 to 400.
shallower aquifers would be sealed off. They wouldn't be
Okay.
It-
Yeah, 250 to 400 feet, if I can paraphrase your answer to Kirk, so.
Tammy, is that in a drinking water aquifer?
No, it's not. Our
It's
depth
a
of
little more
average
shallow.
water is around 85.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Much
adding to
deeper.
that question. And when I started reading about this, I started thinking about, are there any other situations in town where this is a situation already? Where we have city water going to other than ratepayers? Let's say for across the street at the Packers, they're into an aquifer. I don't know how deep their wells
Right,
are,
right.
but we don't get any revenue for that.
Mm-hmm.
And, the ratepayers are just got an increase now, as we're looking at infrastructure costs. So, if someone does want to go into an aquifer, that should be, I would think, a consideration. There won't be any metering on this well as there isn't on across the street, or are they metered across the street?
Not
That's a
on
good
the
question.
wells, not metered, but the water from the city is metered, yes.
And they pay a rate for that?
Yes.
And,
I'm quite confident they're gonna have their own lovely little set of regulations being an ag well, so.
there was, years ago, I spoke to a Ms. Schatz over at PMZ, and her family owned, or I guess they were on that property for a while, and they had a well out there already. Is that something that can be used?
It's a different property.
Oh, it is?
It's not the same property.
Okay. I was just curious. And so the agreement, no matter what it is, will be memorialized and on file for future staff and
That's all, that's part of the reason I wanna make sure that what Mayor Pro Tem Miles was talking about as possible, as long as the rest of the council is okay with that, I would highly suggest that that's part of the motion, so that it is memorialized as part of the motion as well. That would remain that, as long as that is ag land, so, Jamie, hope you're getting close to writing some down, so.
last question is, what constitutes accessibility to the city water system? It didn't differentiate in the staff report what the property may be now or what it may be in the future, but it said that that property would be subject to city water when it became accessible. So is it accessible across the street?
No, not
No.
at this time.
So there's a distance, or,
You have to go
So
to the
it would be, well, I guess it's not Valero now, Mobile.
Mobile, yeah, mobile.
Mobile has but they tie in back behind in the
California.
residential off of California. So, you're either gonna have to bore under the road, or you're gonna have to bore under the railroad tracks to get services at this location.
Would when we ever tie into SSJID, would that be an accessible water source for that property?
It depends upon where we actually bring the water source in. Originally, the tie-in from SSJID was to come at the end of Brennan and 120 there,
Right.
on that north side of the road. So if we followed the same plan, then potentially, yes.
So you'd have to.
There would still be infrastructure needed.
Okay, those are my questions, thanks.
Thank you. Dave, did you have a question?
I did, but it's solved as long as they stay out of our drinking water.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, sounds good. Again, council members, this is an actionable item? Okay, sure.
Dave Willis, 425 Sultana Way. I'm still a bit confused on this. If it's ag water that they're going after, they won't be into the drinking water supply.
Correct?
Is that correct? Okay. Correct. Now, if it's some other time they abandon the agriculture and it goes to something else, will they have to make this, and if they haven't got the accessibility to city water, will they drill that well deeper?
No.
No.
So that is, the way that I understand it, that the action of the council is going to be that if they drill the well and the property is no longer in use for agriculture, then they would need to abandon the well and connect to city services. Should the infrastructure for the water system be installed near the property, they would need to be required to pay their fair share of that infrastructure until at such time they connect it.
But, and in the meantime, they'll still draw free water out of that well?
Correct.
Until the groundwater.
Until our,
sustainability.
yeah.
Free water as in defined by,
It's not being metered and whatnot.
It's not our.
no, but it's not part of our system either, though, so we don't have to treat it, we don't have any responsibility over it.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
This well, as is any well in our region, will be subject to the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, just period.
Right.
And then a point of clarification, as staff report correctly identified, we're simply the long-term tenant on this property. We've developed the orchard and have a long-term lease on it. So I wouldn't want Barton Ranch to be named as the one who would be paying for getting city services extended, for example, further west or whatever.
It goes to the property owner.
Yeah, it'd be the
Noel.
property owner.
Is Noel there paying for the well, or is Barton Ranch?
We're paying for the well.
Okay, all right,
Yep.
okay. So that probably ought to be duly noted in whatever,
So the property owner will
The
be.
property owner will be
Property owner,
responsible for
okay.
the infrastructure improvements.
right, good point. Okay, thank you.
Restricted to the October to March timeframe, as stated? And make sure we use SSGID the other 6 months of the year? Is there a concern with our water levels and all of that?
So the only,
Cheaper to run a well than run SSGID?
it's cheaper to run SSJID.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the problem I'd have with that suggestion is, as I mentioned with the Bay Delta ruling
Right.
and the potential for greatly reduced water supplies from SSJID, that's reason number 2 for us wanting to put in this well.
We
In
get
which
that.
case, we would be using it during the heart of the irrigation season. Our best guess is that that's gonna be, we certainly hope, all of us in this room, a very rare occasion when water supplies will be so depleted due to these fish flows.
Yeah.
Yeah, question.
Yes.
My name's Don Barton. I live at 2102 Alberto Way in Oakdale. And I'm also the president and managing partner of Gold River Orchards, which is the walnut processing plant on Highway 120 in Escalon. To the questions that have been raised about so-called free water, I would simply point out that the Bartons are paying substantial property taxes at our location as well as the orchard locations So we are supporting the activities of the city and the infrastructure of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, again, this is an actionable item, which means that we would need to have a motion if we did want to authorize a construction. If we did not want to authorize a construction, then then there would be no motion, therefore the subject
I
dies.
would move that we allow the well to be drilled. I would also, in that agreement, state that any new infrastructure that comes by that property, it will be paid for by the property owner, not the tenant, and that the well will cease its use if the property's zoning ever changes.
Use.
Huh?
I would say use.
Use?
Use
Okay.
from ag, yes.
All right. And, basically, that's, it.
Okay, motion's been made, and I would need a second for it
I'll
too.
second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. We will continue now on discussion on the motion that is now on the table. Is there any further discussion on the motion that is on the table now?
Just want to be clear, the agreement is with the Barton Ranch for the well.
Correct.
And the language about the property owner being responsible for any infrastructure for city services, that's advisory, just to clarify that the Bartons aren't on the hook.
It's probably going to have to be a combination of with Barton Ranch and the property owner. It's probably gonna be an agreement by all of us. Because I believe that when you drill the well, the owner's gonna have to buy in on that too. So I would think that it's gonna be a combination of all three parties, the city, Barton, and the property owner.
Otherwise, we don't have a meeting of the minds with the property owners, so.
Okay. Tammy, Jamie, would you mind reading the motion back to make sure we're all on the same page with this, please?
So council is authorizing the construction of an irrigation well by Barton Ranch Incorporated at the said parcel numbers. Should the property no longer be used for agriculture, it will be required to abandon the well and connect to city services. Should city infrastructure be installed, the property owner shall pay fair share of cost of infrastructure.
Okay.
That works.
Mayor Pro Tem, does that
That's-
sound
it sounds
okay?
good to me.
Quick, question.
Yep.
So, on behalf of the landlord, does any language there change what their responsibility would be in any event?
In terms of what?
No?
If
No.
the ground either on that property or nearby were to, I hate this term, quote-unquote, go to a higher and better use, convert to residential or commercial or industrial, they would have to pay the cost of installing that system anyway, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I was going to ask the Councilmember Merkin, you seconded the motion, are you satisfied?
Yes.
Is there any further discussion on the motion on the table? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes 5-0. Council Communications, Councilmember Crumick.
How did the meeting with the industries go?
It went okay. They want to meet back with the consultant. They have some more additional questions on that. Of course, nobody, committed to anything, in that first meeting. So they asked some questions and, raised some concerns on items, and just wanting to confirm the improvements that need to be done. So I've reached back out to Andy, who was on vacation, and hopefully we'll be trying to set up a meeting with him and them in the next couple of weeks.
When does the city, get their permit fee, or when do they send them that bill? When is it crunch time?
So their permits are, become effective they start July 1 and end June 30th. So their current permits don't expire until June 30th of this year.
So
So
that
for
might,
them, I mean, they're gonna, in the next couple months, they're gonna wanna start looking at their new permits.
and that's when we could talk about what we're hoping to achieve.
Well, I mean, we're still talking about it right now at this point, because if I understood the council correctly, we needed, to understand where they were going to be at this buy-in in
Yeah.
order to be able to move forward with any,
Yeah,
which, I mean, at some point, we're gonna have to move forward with something, so.
Well, their commitment's gonna determine what we're gonna do.
I agree with that statement, and I'm just, it comes into my mind that Councilman Legero has said, you know, we have this big study from PACE, and are we gonna do something with it? We have this information, we're talking to the industries. We haven't talked about it for a few meetings, but as far as our wastewater treatment plant, I still think that is a forefront issue that we need to continue talking about. We can't let it just go on the back burner. And so I would encourage, you know, continued work on that front. I think that does have to do with the future of our community in a big way. So that was my question. Last thing, looked like the Valley Inn opened up on Main Street. And I think it's kind of interesting. Only thing you need to provide to have a bustling downtown is just provide an abundance of alcohol, and you will have a thriving downtown. It looks like we're back, baby.
You're in this one.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Crumick. Councilmember Legero.
I think having the preliminary approval on the SB2 funding for the municipal services review is excellent. It's excellent timing, and it's excellent news, particularly with the lift station coming online. I think we're in a position now, we've talked about the 2 remaining applications for annexation discussions, the property off of Brennan and 120, as well as, I believe it's Sarin Lutheran Church also has their application in. I think it might be a good time to at least lift the moratorium on those 2 particular applications so that we can have further conversations with them about where they're at now. I mean, we're talking a decade or more down the road since they applied. We've been sitting on their applications and their money since then. So I think it's probably time to at least allow them to be part of this conversation with the MSR and the lift station, and kind of get a reset of where we're at and see if it's something that might be viable. Both those properties are islands surrounded by city property, so might be some benefit to the community to take a closer look at those and see if it's something we can do. Is that something that we need to put on the agenda to have further discussion on, or is that?
Yes, because I'll have to confirm with Ann what steps we would need to take. Specifically, if we're only looking at lifting it for the 2, and not opening it up, so.
That sounds like an item that we may want to have if the council does want to entertain this, then we may want to have a consensus to direct staff to look into that if we do want to go in this direction. Do I have a consensus for the staff to explore this specific option with these 2 properties?
Yes, sure.
Yes? Okay.
Right,
Well, consensus.
okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah. Councilmember Legero, thank you very much. Councilmember Merkin.
Any update on Orlando's, the big boy market?
I haven't heard anything.
They're supposed to be in escrow. So we did receive a call regarding information on the property, and that's usually a sign that either some type of appraisal or file reviews being done. But they did indicate that they would be going into escrow in January. So we should hopefully see some movement in the next few months. I'm not sure how long it will take to purchase that property, or what their agreement is there, but it's supposed to be in escrow, so.
Just some comments from the folks that live out in Paddock Manor that they would like to have a grocery store on that side
Yeah.
of town. Yeah, that's all I got.
We would like to see the building occupied,
Yeah.
yeah.
With other than dogs.
Councilmember Merkin, thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Alves.
Yeah, just 1 second, I want to make a note. How are we doing on the pruning of Sanchez Park?
The suckers?
Yes, sir.
It was taken care of today.
You're a good man.
Thank you.
How about those stops at the end of the streets? How we doing on those?
They're working on them, but there's quite a few of them, and but we are getting
How
to
do they
them.
get tore up like that?
You know, a lot of them it's hard to say. I think some people are parking there at the end on some and they just back up just a little bit. And some of them are some of the orchards too, with some of the machinery that comes around.
Okay.
It's a little bit of
A
both.
little bit of everything, huh? Okay, how are we doing with the Lear project? You get any more updates on that one?
He passed his water test as far as this pressure test, so
Is he threatening to move forward?
let's just be happy that he passed the water pressure test and we're going past that now, so.
So what's his next hoop?
Tomorrow, there's an inspection set up.
Yeah, we still have more inspection. Now that his pressure, he's tested for his PSI, but now we have to test the water, the water, the bacteria in there and
You're supposed to
everything
bleach
else.
the lines.
So now we're testing everything to make sure that what he's gonna provide is safe and clear.
Okay, great.
He has a water line flushing tomorrow, and then the lab will be out on Wednesday for the bacteria testing before we let him connect.
Both myself and Jeff met with the owners of these properties. He was bringing up in terms of bringing them out of the, what's the word?
Sphere.
Into the
No, the
sphere of influence.
moratorium.
Yeah, out of the moratorium.
Out of the moratorium is what I was
And
looking for.
annex them
Anyway,
specifically.
They were excited, and I think it's time, and I think it's a situation, we've given an opportunity to everybody in this town who owns property, an opportunity to respond. And so I just wanna make it as public record, don't come crying later, cause if this property comes in and we develop it, hey, everyone had a fair opportunity to participate. So I'm not gonna listen to anybody coming later on and complain. The last thing I wanna say is, how many employees are out there at your plant there on, Escalon below, or what, I mean, 120?
It's seasonal, so,
Right.
during this time of the year, we're employing about, 50 to 60 people.
Sure.
During harvest, we ramp up to about 100.
But,
And in the summer, during our low time, we're around 20, 25.
How many tons do you push through there a year?
This year, it was a short crop, so we didn't quite get what we were expecting, but about 24 million pounds.
Wow, unbelievable. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a great plant.
Appreciate the support.
Glad to have you in the neighborhood. Okay, I'm done, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Alves. Just want to reiterate what Councilmember Crumick had mentioned about the VI. Wow, what a difference it makes to downtown. Anytime you get something like that down there,
Makes me drunk, feel bad to
it's
go in there.
it's hopping again. Yeah, yeah. It was the water odor issues. Any update on the
Yeah,
testing?
we did get all the testing back, and they'll be included in the staff report,
Okay.
so you can see everything did come back normal for color, odor, and turbidity. We did have two addresses on the outside spigot that had 0.001, the lowest for turbidity, which is the cloudiness and little particles in the water, but inside, nothing.
Okay.
So, but it will be included in the next staff report.
Okay, and now I'm sure the houses that you've tested, they're kept in the loop on all that, and right?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
fantastic. And any progress on the? I know you're going to be compiling a list on potential speed. I don't want to call them speed bumps.
Speed islands.
There you go. It's a little bit of a more diplomatic term. but-
Deterrence.
Anyway, any progress on that? Or that'll be coming up soon for a list for
It'll
everybody?
be
or-
coming up soon, but there's not a lot of progress there now.
Okay, no worries, no worries, no
Thanks for the
worries.
picture, it's a nice picture.
You're welcome.
And it was also brought up to me the other day, and I'm just throwing this out, food for thought, and it's one of those baseball-related things that happens this time every year.
Here we go.
No, I know that there's gonna be some work done in the fields, I think they're gonna look great, but they were also asking, I guess the high school has some batting cages. And I don't know how costly they are, or what, and I'm assuming, I don't know how well utilized they are. Do you know, we put in those pitching mounds a couple years ago. Do you know how? Jim. Do you know how often the mounds are being used?
During baseball season, they're used very often. In the off-season, I see kids out there maybe a couple days a week.
Okay.
I mean, they're getting used.
No worries. I'm just wondering if like some inexpensive batting cages, something along the lines of what the high school has.
That'd be great for service
Yeah,
groups to
yeah.
look into.
I wonder if there's a utility to that. It was brought up to me the other day by a parent, I thought, that's not a bad idea, So just, don't know, food for thought, I have no idea how much they are. Have no idea if it couldn't be a conjunction thing with the service clubs in town.
Don't they take up some space, though?
Oh, yeah. they'll take
Yeah,
it.
you probably would have to put them in that old volleyball area over there, I would imagine, so, yeah, so, anyway, just food for thought. And that is all I have tonight. We will be going into closed session. You're more than welcome to stay afterwards, but I would like to, if you don't, I'd like to thank you for coming tonight to the council meeting. So, and at this point, we'll be retiring into closed session. Thank you.